Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. We're here with a latest edition of the Filibuster, our government affairs update. I'm joined by Ryan Parada of Connector, who is our outside government affairs consultant. He works a lot behind the scenes with Glenn Loop on the state advocacy side. And today, principally, we're kind of going through the list. I know on our Cigar Action site, we already have issued 16 different action alerts. I think it'll probably be near 20 by the end or middle of next week. So Ryan, there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's kind of talk through some of the things. I know I've seen some tax increase, text, tax cap, preservation bills, things with smoking restrictions in cities, states, as well as some gaming institutions. Let's kind of give a little bit of a lay of the land for our listeners.
Sure. So, starting from the top, a trend we're seeing this year is states starting to attempt to move tax caps. So, at the top of the list, we have Rhode Island. In the governor's executive budget, we have a 300% increase in taxes. It's going from a 50-cent tax cap to a $2 per stick taxes. So, that is up on cigaraction.org. So if you're in Rhode Island, please take action on that. We have both consumer and retail action for that. So please feel free to share that with your customers to fight against that tax. It's not said and done. It's still very in play. So those legislators definitely need to hear from you. To piggyback off of that, in Washington State, we have a few different tax bills that we're fighting against. One is moving it's HB 1416, moving the tax cap from 65 cents to 75 cents. Though that seems like a small amount to move, it still affects every retailer in the state. It also opens up the door and sets precedent for next year to be progressive, to continue to move that tax cap up. Rhyming with that, staying in Washington State for a moment, HB 2382 is moving it from 65 cents to 85 cents. Once again, that's a higher tax increase than the first bill, but it's opening the door to more extreme tax increases in the future. So we definitely want to keep our finger on the pulse there and fight against it while we can. Lastly, in Washington State is removing the tax cap altogether and raising the tax to 90% of wholesale. That's HB 6129. All three of those Washington State bills have been sent out to our retail members in Washington State, but we heavily encourage you to take action on cigaraction.org for those bills. Washington State thus far, we're still very early in the session, but Washington State has been the most active for tax moves. Lastly, on the tax side of things, we have Mississippi House Bill 758. It's moving the taxes to from 15% to 22.5%. That's a 50% increase in the OTP taxes. Again, all of these bills are still in play. None of them have been passed. So we need our members to go to cigaraction.org and fight against those bills. Did you have any thoughts on the tax side of things before we move on from there?
Yeah, I think looking at some of the pace of the state legislators, early in this cycle, I would expect to have two or three additional introductions of bills. We need, in regardless of whatever state our members are in, they need to, be cognizant of their inbox when we're sending the alerts out, take action alongside the process. We've guided and we've done trainings on this before. When we're sending it out is the most opportune time, in the beginning. get active from the start. But if it does move through committee or moves, through one chamber or the other, or to the governor's office, we will be contacting folks at real time pace. And as soon as you get that email, that's when we really want people to drive action and drive traffic. And this year we're very consistent on ensuring that we also have that consumer component to drive additional traffic to this. Our strength is in numbers, and folks really need to hear from our membership as well as their customers. I know Washington State is certainly going to be a challenge. We also have some challenging legislation as well as some positive legislation in places like New York, New Jersey. I know the East Coast. Frequently, we will see in the New England region a flurry of bills that we're monitoring, and some are not 100% pertinent to premium cigars, so we won't engage. This is a curated list. I think last year, working with you and Glenn, we tracked and were monitoring and kind of filtering through about 8 to 10,000 bills. From that, we were really looking and focused in on another 120, and I think we had about 40 action alerts that were issued over the course of the year. We might see a little bit more this cycle. I mean, it's very active. I think, nightly we're receiving 10, 12 emails of different things that tangentially address small business tobacco issues. Some of them are vapor focused or other tobacco products. But I think the other thing that we're being very cognizant of is, even if it starts with a vapor bill or a cigarette bill or another tobacco product bill, it's possible as it moves through the process and there's amendments that there could be considerations for premium cigars in our businesses. So that is something that we're really focused in on this year in particular, as we're seeing the budget gaps try and get filled through the so-called sin taxes on tobacco products and premium cigars in particular.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off of what you said there is you got to send these letters early, but that's not where the fight ends. Josh, Glenn, myself, and other cigar organizations out there can only do so much. These legislators want to hear from their constituents. So if these bills start progressing through their individual chambers, if there's hearings that come up, if these bills are taken very seriously by the leadership of these states, then we're going to need to activate retail members there to provide testimony against these bills or in support of these bills, depending on which ones we're talking about. But Josh and Glenn and the PCA will be reaching out to individual state members to provide that kind of feedback if the legislators need it and if the bill warrants it. A lot of these bills are overly ambitious from the anti-tobacco side and will never see the light of day outside of being introduced. But we need to take every threat seriously because, even if, like last year, we saw a lot of the generational smoking bans get introduced. Though they didn't go anywhere, it now sets a precedent, and it puts language out there for other states to take and make it their own and introduce. So we need to fight every fight like it's going to pass, even if it's unlikely to.
And Ryan, that's a good point about the anti-tobacco groups. Like, they certainly have an ambitious agenda. They've been stonewalled for the most part at the federal level, and we've seen kind of the drive downward to the states and also locally in particular. And that's where they're, financing and fighting very aggressively. We're seeing it in markets like Detroit, Raleigh, North Carolina. Actually, I saw a local ordinance this week involving smoking, where people can smoke. We're also monitoring some local issues as well. And with the anti-tobacco groups, they've also had a flurry of, I will say it, junk science released. And our team is also sifting through that. And I would expect on our blog and some of our communications channels, we'll have a response to that. As everyone is well aware, our team, whether it be Ryan, myself, Glenn, Rob, who also works at Connector on our federal team, we're very aggressive. And if somebody is positing falsehoods or partial truths or cherry picked data, we're going to certainly call them out on that. And there were a couple instances this week of these reports that were generated by the anti groups that require a response from our association.
Absolutely. And to continue down the theme of local governments kind of taking up the fight against tobacco, we're seeing a bill in Missouri, HB 2085, which would give the local authority, give local governments the authority to regulate tobacco products, meaning they can revoke licensure, they can increase fees for licensure, they can demands that your business be so many feet away from a different type of business. And it would create a total patchwork of regulations and laws for businesses to try to sift through to make sure that they're on the right side of the law. We need to fight against these bills everywhere they come up. Local authority bills do come up every session. But in this session in particular, I think that's going to be a trend that's going to continue as these state sessions start going along.
Especially in states where you have favorable state legislatures when it comes to a lot of these issues, then it's that drive downward. That's a trend we frequently see, is, similar to how, our association, we try to, enact positive changes in favorable markets. And with the political trade winds constantly changing, we have to be cognizant of where we're going to have to apply resources. And that's a good point to make, for our state association folks that are watching. We do have our state grant available. State grants are available to registered state associations. That program has been renewed by our board of directors for this year. I think this is our fourth year offering that program. And every year we get 4 or 5 states utilizing these funds for their local advocacy lobbying. It's also important to note, if you do not have a state association in your state, please reach out to Glenn. We can use some of that state grant money to actually form a state association, which we actually did in California, in helping create their new state association in 2025.
And those state associations are what end up picking up a lot of the water on these fights. The more local we can get on our advocacy, the better with most of these states. So if you don't have a state association, please, the trade show is right around the corner. That's a great time to set one up. But frankly, the best time to set up was yesterday. So please reach out to anybody on the team, and we can get you the right resources you need to be able to establish that and become active. Even there are a few states out there that have a handful of members, and they can be some of the most effective state associations in the country. It just depends on the understanding of the legislation, taking it very seriously, and putting your best foot forward. And we're here to help you with that.
Ryan, you mentioned the trade show. That is a great time to engage with our team. Also, we will be offering space for state associations to have their meetings, to reconvene, kind of compare notes. Rob, Ryan, myself, Glenn will be available throughout the show to do, state association presentations, advocacy presentations. We'll most likely have a panel discussion at the PCA booth during the trade show. We normally do a general advocacy update, which will include federal, state litigation, lobbying, all of the above. And then we do have those breakout state association meetings. I think the one year in Vegas, we had like 12 meetings. It was going, back to back to back. Last year, in the move to New Orleans, we had about six. So I'm hoping that we can reconvene most of the states. I know there's a lot of activities going on at this year's trade show, but we want to make sure that we carve out some time for state activities, as this is the area I think that's of the top priority, at least for 2026. I mean, it was certainly the case in 2025. On the federal front, and I want to get back to the, some more of the state stuff with you, Ryan, but I think on the federal front, the trade and tariff policy is the issue that we're monitoring and engaging on the most. But, at the states, it's 7 to 10, top tier issues that we're involved in.
Absolutely. As you said at the top of this session, the anti-tobacco folk have not had any legislative wins on the federal level, so they're putting all of their efforts into the states. To continue down the list here, we just posted today a casino smoking ban in Iowa. So if you're in Iowa, please take action on this. It'll harm the local businesses more than the casinos. As people are not going to be smoking in casinos anymore if this passes. So that's SF 2051. So if you're in Iowa, please take action on that. It's not all negative. I know that anytime I get on camera for PCA, it's a lot of doom and gloom, but not all negative. In Kentucky, we have a cigar bar bill, which would make it easier for cigar lounges and newly established businesses to serve alcohol with cigars. And those types of businesses can be, they're very unique, and they can be big drivers for local economies. So we ask that you go to cigaraction.org and support those bills.
And
then,
Ryan, on the positive front, I do know that there's some bills being worked on in Iowa also that would be possible, or on the positive nature. So, we're looking at, of course, the tax caps, but also that cigar bar legislation. We will be shortly releasing at the end of probably early February the final results of some of our tax cap study. We'll have Glenn on in February, most likely with Dr. Goss, who was of Creighton University, that worked on this study, analyzing tax policy for premium cigars and tax caps in particular. So we have a lot of good research and data for the industry, and that helps reinforce some of our arguments that we make. We're also in conversation about commissioning a second study that would involve, cigar bar legislation in particular, as well as some other hospitality areas.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Josh. The tax cap study, from the preliminary results that I've reviewed, and we will have that shortly, the finalized results, they are phenomenal. They really sell tax caps easily to the most conservative and the most liberal state legislatures. They prove beyond any doubt that having a tax cap in the state brings more money to the state. It generates more tax revenue. It supports small businesses. It increases employment. It increases wage growth for those employees. It's just good policy. Lastly on my list is Hawaii. We don't have an alert up for this just yet because the bill was just filed today, but we will have it up on Cigar Action shortly. It is a total flavor ban, which would certainly affect the premium cigar retailers in Hawaii. Especially with the tourism market. People are going there and expecting to see the same products that they see at home. And, we definitely want to protect all of those retail tobacconists there.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate all of your hard work, with Glenn getting these alerts out there. I'm sure that there'll be a lot more in February and March. Our team also on the state front, we've set our kind of agenda for the year. We will be supporting the National Conference of State Legislatures doing a event in Chicago in July. That's where they'll be hosting the conference, the NCSL State Legislative Conference, in late July. So we will be doing a cigar reception for that. The trade show, of course, we welcome any and all dignitaries and elected officials. I know last year it was a real treat to have the governor of Louisiana. I expect to have some other folks from the federal Louisiana delegation at the show. But if you're somebody that is close with local, state, federal officials, and you want them to have the opportunity to experience the world's largest premium cigar trade show, we would be happy to extend an invitation. Please reach out to our government affairs team. Any of us on the team, Rob and Ryan are an extension of Glenn and I. So you can reach out to any of us and we'll make sure that they get the official invitation to the PCA 2026 show. With that in mind, I know that some of our team will be traveling to different events, kind of drumming up support for the trade show and engaging with folks. I will be in Mississippi and New Mexico in February with Maria, our director of membership, and I will be in Maine as well with Lisa Sigler, our senior director of membership. So we're going to some states where there's state activities on the advocacy front, but also they may not have had a visit or in-person meeting with a member of the PCA team. We value all of our states equally, and we want to make sure that we're providing resources, not just from the advocacy perspective, which is obviously a cornerstone of the association, but we're also providing key member benefits and listening to feedback. I did several store visits earlier this week in Orlando, Florida, as well as a couple media interviews, and engaged with retailers and got some additional feedback, and we're implementing that into our program. So know that we are here to assist. Hopefully everyone has a great weekend and gets to enjoy some cigars before these so-called snowstorms hit. Hopefully it's not too bad where you are all located. Thank you for your time and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody.